Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. I want to wrap this week up with something that we haven't done in a long time and something I'd like to get back to doing more frequently. We have Creator Request, which is a program I used to do where smaller bands would send in their music and we'd check it out. Kind of show some areas where I think it could improve, give a lot of praise to let people know where they're going in the right direction of, and just to kind of promote it to a wider audience. Today I think that we have a bit of a treat ahead of us. We have the band Edge of Eden. We're going to be looking at the final song off of their 2025 EP. This is called Eclipse Part 3, Betrayal of the Moon. The email mentioned that this is a high school band with members of the band ranging from ages 12 to 17 or 13 to 17, something like that, and that it is a progressive metal band. Be pretty cool to see what the next generation of metalheads are doing. So let's dive into this and see what Edge of Eden is bringing to the table today. Yeah, very smooth progression. Getting right into the metal. I like the piano underneath everything. Nice 3/4 in here that has a very fluid sway. That's a different vocalist, right? Yeah, lots of power. Nice vibrato at the end of both of those vocal lines. And harmony. Nice space work in there, filling out the foundation of this section. Yeah, nice build of energy to hit that peak, bring it down a little bit for this guitar solo. That harmonic twist bringing tension. Oh, that drum fill.
And as the light begins to fade from your eyes, there's no mistake. I start to see I've been deceived by one who's always held told the truth. And as the haze begins to clear from the shadows of your heart, I start to see you lied to me for gain of nothing.
Those bass kick gallops, man. Interesting here, sticking with 4/4 but working with 3-bar phrases. It feels like it's constantly missing that resolution, always being thrust into the beginning before it ended. The drum fill bringing us into this higher energy finale, give or take. Bass kick going. Nice touch. Yeah, the crescendo on that snare roll. I still love the piano under all of this. On that chord. Ooh, going to the fourth. Okay, I see. Oh yeah. So I thought we were gonna shoot up and hit like, a high tone, just belt it out. But that fourth extension, which felt odd to me, thinking that that's where we were going, is perfect because it feels like an extension that sort of drags, and then we go for that sort of diminished, kind of like bringing the energy down to wrap the song rather than up is where I thought we were going. And so yeah, the fourth time made a lot of sense there. Yeah, beautiful. As far as criticism goes, I don't think I have a lot. Personally, subjectively, I like some of the transitions to be a little smoother, especially as we're moving from specific ideas. But I also see that this is part 3, so maybe some of this makes more sense when I view it in the whole. I mean, let's see, this EP is only 4 tracks long. 3 of them are the Eclipse trilogy. and before them, At Last, The Beginning, which might be a sort of prequel to the Eclipse trilogy, possibly just based off the title, I'm guessing. And this is the finale to that. So while I do think it is a pretty solid standalone experience, I wonder how much better it is to listen to the entire album. And it did come out in 2025. I'm gonna pull this off to the side. I'm gonna check it out later. Kind of had a drought of 2025 albums, anyways. I'm all caught up on my release radar, so yeah, why not check? And it's only 20 minutes, right? That would be a quick listen and probably end up putting it on again if the rest of the stuff is like this. Um, but yeah, like I said, that's really my only criticism, and that's more of a personal taste than anything else. I think objectively, this is a solid track from start to finish. And while I do think that there is a lot of room for growth, I feel like this song plays it safe more than anything else. I mean, you got a bunch of teenagers putting together an 8-minute prog metal track. It is exceptionally solid as a foundation to build from, and it shows a ton of promise for where this group can go in the future. I mean, you're starting off ridiculously strong here. um, and I can't wait to see how Edge of Eden continues to grow and expand as artists and to continue to hone their craft. And I mean, this is just a fantastic start, honestly. I don't know how many times I can say that. I'll probably say it again before the end of this video. I want to make that like extremely clear. Let's see. I was kind of not put off at the beginning, but it is. I was introduced to this as a progressive metal band, and the beginning of the song, I'd probably say the first 2 or so minutes, is fantastic music, but it was not where my expectations were given the genre that I thought we were going to be getting into. The rest of the song does definitely lean into more of a metallic and even progressive writing, but the beginning kind of left me expecting something else, which is we're going to put that on me. Skill issue. We're going to put that there. It starts off beautifully, though. I love the opening piano line. I love bringing in the metal stuff on top of that, working the piano underneath. This is something that we will continue to see throughout this song, is the piano existing underneath the electric guitars and really creating this nice layering here where the guitars can be big and meaty and just bring that metallic bite to the song, and the piano can be a bit more of a moving line. We actually see this in, I think it's the chorus. I really only calling it the chorus because I feel like it's the most musically simple part. The guitars and bass are just playing chords. The drums are laying down a pretty straightforward rhythm, and the vocals are taking the spotlight, usually harmonized with the two vocalists in order to deliver the story and the melody and all this. So we have pretty simple writing. And if you listen underneath, the piano is, I think, arpeggiating the chord, just running up and running down, and pretty cool ideas. And it's like this little twinkling thing, but instead of putting it up in the mix, sort of existing around the song, it sits underneath it and gives the foundation a little bit of extra sparkle if you're listening to it. I was going to say I might bump that up a little bit, but yeah, I'm sure they tried that out. You usually don't put things into the mix from the start. Things usually start louder, and you got to like work the volume down until it fits. But I do kind of wish I could have heard that more prominently. I really had to listen for it to find it most times. But again, maybe that's the best way it could have been. But I do love that layering. I think that works beautifully, and it's like that through most of the track. I think there are very few sections where the piano wasn't present under the distorted guitars, and that's just very cool. Anytime you can bring a piano into metal, I'm all for it. So yeah, we have the piano, guitars come in, and we get the first vocal track. Everything's rather low energy at this point. We can feel the buildup, and again, this might be a section where, having heard the first two parts, this makes more sense. Again, like I said, I'm going to put that blame on me for expecting something different at this point. But it's all very chill, kind of rockier almost. I don't think we really hit a metal sound until like 3 minutes into the track. which is all fine and good too. The more variety and diversity in it, the more progressive it is. And if you can tie it all together, it's even better for it. And I do think that the lighter parts of this track do pair very well with the heavier parts, and that the fluidity of moving between them works wonderfully. Just really well done. But we keep the energy kind of low. And what I find most interesting about this section is the dual vocalists. Just by default, I assume most bands only have one vocal, so I can either have my expectations met, or if there's more, I can be surprised. I think that's a lot better than constantly being let down and sometimes having my expectations met. That just sounds like a miserable experience. So, we got the first vocalist in here. Sounds beautiful. Love the timbre of the vocals against the instrumentation. The melody is gorgeous. Just really great writing and performance there. And then we get another vocalist in. It took me a second to realize. I was like, yeah, that's a new vocalist. All right, so we got two vocals here. I'm a huge fan of multiple vocalists in music in general, but certainly in metal. I think metal just tends to have usually a smaller instrumentation set. I mean, you got bass guitar, maybe another guitar, your drums, and your vocals. And sometimes in metal, those vocals are growls. So you don't even have another melodic instrument there. There's a lot of room to add more stuff. And usually bands add more guitars. But honestly, I'd like to see more bands adding more vocalists. 2, even 3, I feel like just makes metal better every time. And sure enough, here I loved the timbre shifts from the sort of brighter and slightly colder first vocal set that we got, and then the lower and warmer, more resonant vocals that we got on the second part of the verse. And then bringing them together for that first chorus was great. I love the way that the textures work together on those vocals. It just sounds very warm and inviting. And paired with the atmosphere going on here is just a really great sound in general. This does lead us to just a very abrupt stop at the end of this. This was one of the first sections that I was like, oh, the transitions are going to be a bit rough on this. I do feel like this was probably the worst transition as far as my opinion. Maybe, again, knowing the story and the lyrics, like this very harsh stop here makes a lot of sense. But just listening to it my first time through, it caught me off guard. Felt like I tripped. The song just started over with a different idea. But again, maybe I just have a bad read on it. Regardless, this whole first section, like the first 2.5 minutes, is fantastic. From here, we have a series of ebbs and flows, starting low and going high, starting high and coming back down low. Just a plethora of sounds that are lighter and more dexterous and heavier and just meatier, more metallic. It has bite to it. And we jump between both of these. We also see a bit of variety within the harmonic structure. There's a couple of chord progressions that get changed around here and there, definitely leaning towards more like pentatonic rule of cool stuff in the guitar work, and then more, I'd almost say like indie rock kind of mainstream sounds in some of the lighter sections. It's really nice hearing the two of these in isolation and then hearing them come together at times when we bring all the instruments together and hearing how the harmonic elements sort of inform each other throughout this. And the rest of the song just ends up being a general, I think, roller coaster ride that mimics some of the highs and lows we saw in that opening 2.5 minutes and puts them to even more of an extreme, where our lower points are even lower, just piano at times, and our higher points are even higher with both vocals and big guitars and the bass and metal drumming, just really filling out a lot of sounds. I think generally I enjoyed the roller coaster ride throughout this song. I have a tough time sort of keeping track of the structure, which is pretty typical for more progressive writings. This is something that I kind of wish I had kept written notes down as far as how the structure goes, but I enjoyed the general fluidity of the rest of the track and found that it made a lot of sense. And by the end of the song, it felt like a good place to put the finale, the build up to it, and then I already kind of talked about the extended outro and how that works really well at setting up that final chord, and sort of the diminished fade out that we have in that final moment. That ends up working really well. Now, one thing I do want to bring up in more of a specific element, the drummer. This dude is a beast. Absolutely love the drum work in here. Not only are the drums just consistently doing cool things, the drum fills, the patterns, the variations on the patterns, little flourishes thrown in there. You can key into pretty much anything that the drummer is doing at any time of this song and find something interesting going on. But I found this other part to be even more cool about the drums, is that they're consistently keyed into how the song progresses. Honestly, listen to what the drummer is doing, and when they decide to change gears, time feels, rhythms, flows, patterns, especially towards the end of like a 16 bar phrase or something, and usually you'll find that the drummer is setting up the feeling for the next section. It happens so frequently in here, that as rough as some of these transitions can be, and usually they are when the drummer doesn't do this. I really feel like the drummer is the glue holding a lot of this song together. But you'll find that the drummer is anticipating the next idea and introducing it just a hair bit early in order to acclimate the ears to where we are going and provide some foreshadowing to the next step of this journey. It works marvelously every time. I absolutely loved it and ended up looking forward to it and keeping an ear out for what the drums are doing pretty much at every point of the song after the halfway point, once I started to pick up on this, just to kind of have that little bit of a guide through this trek that we were on. Instead of just being out here by myself getting whipped around by these changes, the drummer was out here showing me where things were. And I really dig that. But the drummer also has some really cool dynamic stuff going on. I mentioned there at the end, like a minute prior to the end or something, there's this cool little snare roll that was a drum fill to start the repetition over again. And through there, the drummer crescendoed through the snare roll, bringing the volume up and then landing on this new volume and it being a new peak for the next section. We also had a part where they did some like 16th note, 8th note bass kick, just like double pedal back and forth, keeping a nice consistent idea as part of a drum fill. And it felt like we were going to go back to the halftime idea, at least that's what I expected. And the drummer kept on it, and then the guitars ramped up their idea next with this new section, the new energy underneath it that the bass kicks were presenting. The guitars were able to elevate themselves and meet this new energy and helped push the song forward. There's just so many little notions here where the drummer just elevates little ideas all over the place. And I want to put so much of a spotlight on it because, like I said, anytime I listened to what the drums were doing, they were consistently guiding me through this song and being a glue that holds everything together. It was just so well done, and I loved it. And I think that's gonna wrap this one up. I touched on all the highlights. Everything else, though, like I said, works well. The guitar work throughout here, we had that nice solo. Actually, the solo was neat too because it started out feeling very linear, almost like it was doing its own thing, just strictly melodic. It was a very tasteful solo, kind of having a little bit of speed and intricate writing to it, but also being something that feels very narratively driven to go along with what the song was doing. And then I didn't even notice when this shift happened, but it turned into an ostinato, into a repeating riff. And then it got harmonized. And that was a pretty cool evolution of that idea to fluidly move us. The more that I talk about some of the more fluid ideas, I realize that the song is, what is it called when it sort of happens underneath the surface? Like it's not something you really pay attention to, like background transitions, right? This song actually does have a lot of fluidity of movement to it, more so than I think I originally anticipated or heard. It's just so much of it kind of escapes the ear. It happens just beneath the surface, and it keeps the song feeling very connected, even though when there is a very jagged transition, those stand out, and it makes them feel more frequent because the smooth ones don't stand out as much. I might have to take that back, my criticism from earlier. Maybe this is just a really well balanced composition. I want to give it another listen now. Anyways, yeah, the whole solo turning into a riff, into the harmonized riff, was very cool. We also had the movement from like a more traditional progressive like heavy metal sound into a metal core thing that happened around like minute 4 or 5. I thought that was pretty cool. Um, oh, dude, the random gallops coming in on those fast eighth note bass kicks. That was a cool moment. I pointed those out during the reaction. There's just a lot of really neat ideas in here that's all wrapped up in something that feels very palatable and accessible thanks to the wonderful vocals here and the vast amount of harmonic and melodic ideas that sit above all of the more progressive and technical concepts. Like I said, this is a solid start. This is the first thing that this group has put out. And as far as I'm concerned, if they stick with it, they could easily be one of the better progressive metal bands out there once they get a little bit more experience under them. And I was gonna say like find their voice, but this also feels kind of unique to me in the realm of progressive metal. Granted, I don't listen to a lot of it, even though it is the most reacted to genre on the channel. I feel like I listen to a very specific group of progressive metal, especially since we have like, I don't know, 11 reactions to like Between the Buried and Me. I feel like that's sort of the story where even though it is the most reacted, it's really like a smaller group of bands. And so I've heard a lot of songs, but not a lot of bands within the genre. And I'm sure, somebody would be able to say, oh, this sounds just like this other, popular band that maybe I just haven't heard of. But to me, there's definitely some Dream Theater-esque elements in here. But for the most part, it feels like it's kind of exploring its own thing already. So I think it's really just about, to me, finding their stride, getting that experience under their belt, maybe putting out a full LP and seeing, all the work that goes into that, feeling confident through that process, and maybe on their second or third album, starting to experiment a little bit more. Because, like I said, while this is progressive, there's a lot of ideas in here, there's a lot of harmonies in here, different chordal shifts. I do feel like this is a rather safe sound. And I'd love to see what they do once they can start pushing this. And like I said, it comes with experience, with age, just continuing to make music. You're going to start exploring new realms. I'd love to see where they go from here. Because like I said, this is already like a solid 8 out of 10, man. But there's a lot of room to grow. And it's going to be interesting watching that. They did send me lyrics. I'm going to dive into that real quick. And then we're going to wrap this video up. Alright, being that this is the end of a trilogy, I'm going to assume that's why some of this goes over my head. It is broken up into 3 sections though, and I do remember 2 pretty harsh stops. It's quite possible that this song is supposed to be understood in 3 movements, and all 3 of those are supposed to be understood separately. They are lyrically, it seems that the breaks make a lot of sense. They kind of divvy up specific ideas. But musically, I guess it's supposed to do that too. And yeah, I'm just, again, one of those bad calls I think I've made where I don't have all the information. Section 1 introduces 2 characters. I don't necessarily think it's supposed to be the introduction, but I am being introduced to them this way. Like I said, this is not the best way to go about doing this. Anyways, it says, for cast in censure is she who will run away from the wrath of the crimson sun. So we have a she, and then it says, for cast in censure, I find myself. I open my eyes and am surrounded by hell. So now we have a she and an I. We have 2 characters. They've both been cast away, and one is running from the wrath of the crimson sun, and the other one is surrounded by hell, which I assume also has a red vibe to it. It says, the world shall collapse around the damage she has done and the sorrow I have felt. So I'm kind of thinking that both of these people have revenge to take. The world will collapse around them. The damage she has done, the sorrow I have felt, that these 2 things are going to drive these characters to collapse the world around them. It says, cast your eyes upon the sky, and as it falls, we're crushed beneath the weight. So I interpret this as like have dreams, reach for the sky kind of thing. But the inverse of that is the The sky is going to crash down upon us. Our dreams are going to bury us, and we'll be crushed beneath the weight of them. It says the tide grows higher as we wait for the light to reach us, and the moon fades away. So there's a sad ending to this. This chorus actually shows up again at the very end of the song and is expanded a little bit, and we'll get to that in a second. Now, section 2 just seems to be about being deceived. It says, as the light begins to fade from your eyes, there's no mistake. I start to see that I've been deceived by the one who will always hold the truth. And as the haze begins to clear from the shadows of your heart, I see that you lied to me for gain of nothing. So I don't know these characters. I don't know these relationships. I don't know why all of this is important. But we have somebody holding somebody else's corpse and realizing they've been lied to, and that the lie appears to only be to harm them. The other person didn't really gain anything out of it other than maybe revenge, which kind of lines up with section 1. But again, there's so little tie between these two events. I don't even know who these characters are in this section 2, and I don't know who lied to our narrator either. So me being lost, though, one, just kind of par for the course. Lyrics always trip me up. And then two, like I said, we're in the middle of a story here, so I'm kind of going to be lost anyways by the nature of storytelling. Starting in the third act is not a great way to understand something. Now, section 3 introduces this idea of being in your mind and learning things that you didn't know you knew, and kind of losing thoughts that you thought you had. It says, in the places you find in the back of your mind that are hidden, for you cast them away many long years ago. Now they are just a collection of thoughts that are forgotten, and they were so small that you never truly realized they were absent. Senile dreams return, devastation continues raining down, and I still have no greater choice than to lay upon the ground. So this could go along a little bit with the deception of section 2, but focusing on a deception of the self, of how our mind hides information from us and removes information that we thought we had. And this brings us back to the chorus again, waiting for the tide to grow higher and waiting for the night to fall. But it ends with the cries of a world that won't let go. In your mind, you'll follow it out of spite. Please alight for your life. It could soon be over and the moon shall fade away. So he's basically saying that you could give up here. You might follow things in spite, but just let your spark grow. Otherwise, you'll fade out this evening. Basically, just find a reason to live is what I get out of this. And so I can kind of like piece together some of this. I don't understand the larger context of it, but I think generally speaking, most of this is well written, both in a more straightforward way that I kind of get what's happening on the surface level, and there's some nice figurative language in here too, a couple of metaphors that I was able to decipher anyways, which I'm always happy to see that happen. But I am a bit lost on sort of the larger tale, but like I said, that's going to happen anyways. So yeah, I don't really trying to pair this back to the song, but I feel like I need more context on the story before I can start saying how musical parts lean into some of these lyrical ones and how the themes might intertwine a bit. My gut says there's a couple of parts that make a lot of sense and that there's certainly parts where the themes intermingle, but I can't really point to any specifically. So that's something that I would just need to listen to the song a couple more times, and certainly in the context of the album, in order to have a stronger idea about what's going on there. So that's going to wrap it up. These are my thoughts on Edge of Eden's Eclipse Part 3, Betrayal of the Moon. What do you think of this? Is there anything that stood out to you? Anything that you would like to add on to what I said or correct me on? Maybe you have your own interpretation or opinion on things. Please put all of that and any thoughts you have down into the comment section. As usual with these creator requests, I'm going to put links for Edge of Eden in the description box, links to their social medias, to streaming platforms, to websites, anything I can find, so that if you're interested in checking them out or picking up merch or whatever, will just facilitate that process and remove any friction from it. Make it easier for you to do what you want to do and help support some excellent musicians. And then, of course, under that, there's a link to my stuff too. You know, the Linktree thing takes you here. You can find like my music and stuff, and like, subscribe, ring the bell. If you head on over to their page, like, subscribe, ring bells, thumbs up, stars, whatever the page uses as metrics. Show them some love from the community. I'm definitely going to be keeping an eye on them. I hope some of you are as well. I think they have a bright future ahead of them, and I'm excited to see how they grow from here. In fact, I'm still excited to just check out the rest of this album, which I may... Nah, I'll do that over the weekend. I was going to say I might do it right now, but no. I listen to most of my music on the weekend. All right. So, until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.